On September 28, 2016, a Dutch-led international joint investigation team announced its official findings in the matter of the downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17, known as Flight MH17, over the Donbas region on July 17, 2014. All 298 people on board that flight perished. Chief Dutch police investigator Wilbert Poulsen stated that based on a thorough criminal investigation, the team concluded that, quote, Flight MH17 was downed by a Buk missile, which was brought in from the territory of the Russian Federation, end quote. He added that the missile had been transported from Russia to the Donbas on the morning of July 17, 2014, and that the next day the launcher was taken back to Russia. The investigation team was able to pinpoint the exact spot from which the missile was launched, a particular field near the village of Pervomaisky, which the team confirmed was not under the control of the Ukrainian army at the time of the launch, but was controlled rather by pro-Kremlin rebels. After the downing of Flight MH17, this field was vigorously plowed, clearly to erase any evidence of the dastardly criminal deed that had occurred there. President of Ukraine, Petro Poroshenko, stated that the findings of the Flight MH17 investigation are conclusive and indicate, without question, who is to blame for this horrible crime. A number of European politicians have expressed similar sentiments. Convincing are the words of one EU deputy, who stated that Russia is, without a doubt, responsible for the Flight MH17 catastrophe, since privately owned Buk missiles do not exist. On the other side of things in the Flight MH17 affair, Maria Zakharova from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs made an official statement calling the Flight MH17 investigation's findings, quote, prejudiced and politically motivated, end quote, complaining that the West is trying to blame Russia, quote, on the basis of fictitious evidence provided by Ukraine, end quote. In addition, deputies of the Russian State Duma called the investigation's report, quote, an act of sabotage and an act of revenge over the war in Syria, end quote. The next step in the Flight MH17 investigation process will be to determine who is criminally responsible for the air catastrophe. The joint investigation team has thus far established the identities of about 100 people, quote, linked to the crash or to the transport of the Buk missile, end quote. But a list of those who could be prosecuted for the crime is still in the works. A separate criminal investigation has been launched, which is scheduled for conclusion in 2017. Feasible options for the prosecution of guilty parties are already being discussed. Analysts foresee that Russia will block any attempt to create a tribunal at the United Nations Security Council. However, there is a possibility to organize a tribunal outside of the UN, comprised of representatives of the 4 countries affected by the Flight MH17 tragedy. This is the best way of guaranteeing guilty verdicts where appropriate and demanding the extradition from Russia of those found guilty. Ukraine is a mighty scholarly and intellectual resource, a fact that sometimes eludes even Ukrainians themselves. From September 12th to 17th, an elite group of Ukrainian elementary school students with an exceptional understanding of physics was invited to take part in an educational working visit to the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN, in Geneva, Switzerland, to study the Large Hadron Collider, the world's largest and most powerful particle accelerator, and the largest single machine ever built. The Large Hadron Collider consists of a 27-kilometer circular track, lined with superconducting magnets and accelerating structures, where particles are sped up and made to collide in order to detect the existence of particles only theorized within physics. Particles already detected by the collider include some made up of exotic quarks, and very notably the game-changing Higgs boson particle, the so-called God particle, that is the very thing that imparts mass to all matter in the universe, and thus allows something to physically exist. The discovery of the Higgs boson particle by the Large Hadron Collider in 2012 led to a Nobel Prize in Physics in 2013 for the scientists who had theorized its existence in the 1960s. Thus, the Large Hadron Collider and the CERN laboratories are the world's most important experimental facilities for particle physics research. And although the educational program there is geared toward university students and academics, the young students from Ukraine made such an impression on European scholars, with their knowledge, understanding, and potential, that a special exception was made for them, and they were the only pre-university students from all of Europe admitted to the CERN educational and training facilities. There are currently 103 Ukrainian scientists working at CERN, and the students were able to interact with them during their own training sessions. In general, Ukrainian scientists have played a very important role in the creation of specific technologies without which the Large Hadron Collider at CERN would not be able to function. A particular type of microcrystals, or scintillators, developed in Kharkiv in the early 1990s, became the basic building material for most of the collider's particle detectors. Kharkiv scientists also designed and built a central element, the inner tracking system, of the collider's detector known as ALICE. All of these Ukrainian contributions provided vital underpinnings for the discovery of the Higgs boson particle mentioned earlier, and have been recognized for this fact. On September 15th, the Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine, Lilia Hrinevich, joined up with the Ukrainian students at CERN and announced that in October 2016, Ukraine will officially become an associate member state of CERN, meaning that in the future, Ukrainian scientists will have even greater opportunities to lead and take part in some of the world's most cutting-edge scientific research. I'm Tania Stech, and this was Ukraine in the News.